Hello and welcome to Off the Cuff. Today we're taking a break from the madness of politics to speak to the world famous opera singer Svetlina Stoyanova. Svetlina has been on the bill of pretty much all the grandest opera houses in the world. Teatro alla Scala, Vienna, all opera houses in Berlin, the Bolshoi, and she's currently rehearsing for her debut at the Royal Opera House in London, where she's headlining as Cherubino in The Marriage of Figaro. She was also named in Forbes Bulgaria on their 30 under 30 list in 2019 and has just won a Bulgarian Golden Feather Award for her contribution to Bulgarian culture. So how lucky are we to have you here today? Welcome, Svetlina.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be here with you.
Thank you very much. So firstly, how did you get into opera?
Our opera found me. This was absolutely not something that I looked to. I went to Scotland to study psychology. I wanted to be similar to my family. They are all into science or some sort of very serious jobs. So I followed that path and I quite liked psychology as a science, went there, enrolled at Glasgow University. And I had decided to keep music in me a little bit still because I sang in a choir before that in Bulgaria. So I enrolled in a joint honors program of psychology and music. However, the music was not really what I expected it to be. I thought it was going to be some sort of performances. We would have some lessons. And instead, unfortunately, we had started just by discussions. How would you feel before going on stage? How would you prepare? And for me, this was something that I have been doing for the last 10 years while I was in the children's choir of the Bulgarian National Radio. We traveled the world. We were in Japan, we were in China, around Europe, everywhere, and I knew fine well how to prepare. Therefore, I was thinking of changing my subject, my honors, not discarding it, absolutely not, but changing and doing maybe like computing science or something different because I also was interested in computers. And in the meantime, I wanted to keep singing, find somewhere where I can continue doing that as a hobby. So on the map of Glasgow, I found first the Royal College of Art. So I saw art. Great, let's go. I went in there and I was like, hi, I would like to sing. They were like, no, no, here you don't have singing. Go down the road to the Royal Scottish Academy of Music and Drama, as it was called then. So I went down the road with a CD of me singing some solos in the choir. And I said to the people at the administration, hi, I want to sing. What do I do? They looked at me a little bit strangely and they said, well, you need to apply. And I'm like, no, 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 just as a hobby. They were not particularly positive, but let me leave the CD with them. The secretary gave the CD to the head of department, and I got an email from him saying, I heard your CD and I would like to meet. I went to sing and I did not know one aria. I sang two songs from the choir. It was just a crazy, crazy experience. I never in my life had a singing lesson. And to get into the conservatoire, people prepare for years and they apply at least a year in advance for a spot. So I went there, I sang for the head of department, Professor Christopher Underwood, and the new head of department who was going to follow him afterwards, Stephen Robertson. And they asked me to step out of the room. I remember it if it was yesterday. I sat down on the ground in front of the room, being like, okay, what's happening now? They opened the door and they said, you start from tomorrow if you want. I'm like, oh, but I'm like, I still want to study my psychology. And they said, this is unfortunately impossible because you have a scholarship, which is for your bachelor's, and it's only for one university. And this is a full-time course. You cannot do 50% there, 50% there, which ultimately probably would have been what I would have loved to do. So eventually he left me to think about it. And I remember standing in one of the streets in Glasgow thinking, what do I want to do with my life? Do I want to be in a room one to one with a person and try and, discuss their problems, try to help them in that way? Or would I like to be in front of thousands of people and try to get them away from their troubles for the few hours that I sing for them? Just bring them through the journey of music, through the emotions that I'm feeling, and maybe leave a little bit of peace and happiness in them through my voice and through my artistry. So this is how opera found me after I've been running away from it for so many years as my conductor in Bulgaria in the choir. He was very mad at me for not wanting to become an opera singer. He stopped speaking to me the last year, more or less. He would let me sing the solos, but be mad at me because he said, I'm wasting a huge talent. He was like, good luck with your psychology. But when I told him eventually when I was in Glasgow, when I told him that this was happening, he was completely not shocked at all. He was so, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. Good that it happened faster rather than later.
That's an amazing story, really. And it does show that life can take you into very unusual situations that you're not expecting. But whilst you say that obviously you, at that point you hadn't had any lessons, you must have had some vocal influences growing up or musical influences. And are there any that impact your singing now?
Well, when I was very, very little, my grandma used to take me and my cousin to the opera, and my other grandma, who's the doctor of physics, told me a story how I was in the stairs, just in the building that where we were living, and I was just singing away part of Traviata, and she's like, well, how do you know this? It would have been from the one time, and I was 3 years old, that my other grandma would have taken me to the opera house. And it made such a huge impression on me. The opera, I was not quite interested in the singers at that time. I was more interested in what's happening in the pit, about the conductor, all the instrumentalists. So I was sitting on the first row, just looking at what's happening in the pits. Yeah, every once in a while go up, look at the beautiful dresses, but that was not necessarily what was most interesting for me. It's making the music and how it all interacts. And yeah, so that was for sure a huge influence on me. And my grandma, she really wanted me to become an opera singer, and that was never my plan. Unfortunately, she passed before knowing that, but I believe she saw. And I remember that she gave me a CD of Maria Callas, and I was listening to it at home. And of course, it was fascinating for me what these sounds are, how what is a vibrato? Because I thought, oh, but this sounds like it's two notes. What is this? This is a 3, 4 year old child. So I had no idea about anything, but it was always in me. It was always in the family. And we were all big lovers of music. My mom has a beautiful voice. She sang also in the choir. My father plays a guitar and he has also a beautiful voice and sings away. So none of my family are musicians, but they all are so incredibly filled with music. My other grandma, the physicist, she had a violin and she played that when she was younger. So music was always a part of us in some way, but I'm the only one that made it a job.
And having made it a job, what is the most pivotal role of your career?
A pivotal moment of my career, which made me love and be incredibly happy with my choice, is something I would love to share with you. So my grandma told me that a friend of hers, who's a chemist, she was at a conference somewhere in a different country, and she had met another woman, another person there, who, when I feel a little sad or whatever, I listen to this girl on YouTube, and she just makes me feel happy. And my grandma's friend's like, okay, show me who it is. Seeing on YouTube, she's like, this is my friend's granddaughter. And it reached that information, reached my grandma, and then it reached me. And then that just made my whole purpose of life as a career so much more meaningful. That meant I am actually managing to do what I wanted to do.
And what principles do you use to make sure that your voice stays in tip-top condition?
Hydration. Number one, hydration. Try get good sleep if it's possible. If not, I think adrenaline kicks in and you are really able to do magic stuff with very, very little sleep. But I think it's the love of this job that actually gives you energy to be able to, in the best shape possible and to present your best self. Yeah, we're not machines. There are some times when we are not 100%, but we need to be also kind to each other. What I do is in the morning, I do some stretching, some yoga, some little exercises just to keep me fit. As a mezzo soprano, I definitely need that a lot because very often I would sing a boy role, which means it's very physical. There's a lot of running about. There's all sorts of crazy things that they make us do, not only just as a boy. Just before that, I was in La Scala doing the ring cycle Wagner, and I was a creature, and that creature had to climb onto some hands and roll, and I was black and blue, but it was so much fun. And it's very difficult music, incredibly difficult. So you have to act and sing and create everything as well as possible to do everything justice, because you cannot do badly in these kinds of opera houses in this level.
Coming back to the fact that you've said that some of the roles have been difficult, what has been the most challenging role that you've ever had and why?
So I think every role can bring its challenges. I'm trying to pick my roles cleverly in sense of I know where my voice is at the moment. I know where it would be in a few years. So when I get an offer, I think, okay, if it's in 2 years' time, and looking at my development and my current feeling, I know that I would be able to do it. Like, for example, Carmen, I'll do for the first time this year. And I've been asked for many years to do Carmen, and I've been just stepping back from her. I've never felt quite ready for the character, not vocally, but for the character. I felt I needed kind of more power because she is not a gypsy just. She's a grown woman, having been through a lot of experiences and with a lot of pain in her. And I felt that I wasn't quite ready to do her justice, not because of how my life had been or anything like that. It's just acting wise, I think it just is on another level. You have to find a little bit of something in yourself to bring to the character. I don't know if that makes sense. There's another role, componist, it's called an Ariadne of Naxos. This is Strauss. This is very different music to what I'm usually have been singing. I've been singing a lot of Mozart, a lot of Rossini and Baroque, which is much lighter in the voice. And then all of a sudden, Strauss just brings this kind of much more groundness in your body and in your voice. And if you don't have the stamina and good enough technique for that, you may end up doing damage to your vocal cords. And it was quite challenging, actually, that one particularly. It was my debut in Warsaw. It's a huge house. The space, the La Scala, the theater, can be put inside the Warsaw Opera House. It's quite huge and spectacular space, but we have also a decent sized orchestra, quite much more heavy music, and you need to make sure that you're not pushing the voice because with this, with Strauss particularly, you can, or with Wagner, it's so easy to give a little bit too much. We never give 100%. We should never give 100% of the voice. In fact, 85, 90 is plenty because the resonance of the voice needs to be in the perfect spot. If you end up pushing a little bit more, you may lose some of that. And also, you're not going to necessarily project the emotions that you want to, or you will overdo it. It's such a fine line if you're in a dramatic role and if there's an aria or a song, whatever, that you're going to be feeling so sad. You have to be careful not to give 100% of you into this specific situation because if you end up actually crying whilst you're singing, it physically, the larynx goes up, which therefore is going to bring the air up. And you're going to feel as if somebody has their hands on your throat. You can no longer control your vocal cords, and the sound that comes out is not good. It's absolutely not healthy. It's dangerous. So you need to be always very aware how much you give.
And talking about Carmen and the fact that you said that's such a very big role that you're only now stepping into, are there any other roles that you haven't done yet that you're looking forward to doing when you feel that you have the right emotion and the right voice for it?
Yes, I have actually another there. So I've already thought that I'm ready for another more dramatic role. It's in Werther, Charlotte, it's called. I'm very excited about this. It will be in next year. Yes, we work in seasons, so it's a little difficult for me to think when is next year. But I'm not yet at liberty to say where exactly, as it's not been announced. But it will be it's in my calendar, and I'm incredibly excited for this debut as well. I love French music, and my voice loves it too. As much as French is, I would say, my weakest language, and I for sure one of the next things for me to do is get better at it because speaking the language is not necessary, but having a deeper understanding of it, it's quite important, I believe, in making sure that you're doing the best job that you can with the role. Of course, I know what every word means when I'm studying, even though I don't speak French, when I'm studying Carmen, I learn what every word means. I know what every other character is telling me, because otherwise you can't make a conversation. It's not believable. That's the most important thing. You just take it as a constant give and take with whoever you're on stage with. The easiest thing is to sing an aria. You go, you present, you're on your own, fine. But if it's something that involves another singer or an actor or whatever, it's you have to understand what they're saying. And if you don't speak the language, it becomes a little bit more tricky. But even if you do Italian, for example, and I learned Italian, it was not difficult by ear and then just by being in the environment. But the speaking Italian is very different to the operatic Italian. Yeah, maybe you'll pick up different words from here and there, but it's actually quite, it's old Italian. It's like in English, it's in Shakespeare, maybe if, or old English operas, that would be, some words would not be in your day-to-day conversation, and you may not know what they necessarily mean. So you try to obviously figure it out by context, but it's not always possible.
So you talk about language and the progression of language. So what do you think about the trend towards more modern opera as opposed to traditional style?
You mean more a modern opera is in a direction or is in music?
Either.
Both. So there's some really good new operas musically written and some that just don't resonate with me. That does not mean that they're bad in any way, but they just, I know I need to resonate with the role and with the music for me to be able to actually do it. So I picked them very cleverly in that way. I was offered to do some modern piece and I just refused because I don't feel like I can do it justice. Unlike some other of my colleagues who are incredibly interested in this, they love it, they want to dive deep in it, they find it challenging and exciting. And for me, it would bring more kind of not anxiety, but I wouldn't enjoy it so much. And I don't think that for me, this is the right way, the right direction. I love romantic, I love Baroque, I love classical. This is the music that just really touches me and makes me want to present to the people. And I think that's how I can touch people because I believe in it. Love classical productions. Now the one that I'm doing is with classical costumes. It fits perfectly with the story, with the time, but not it does not necessarily maybe resonate with everybody, especially with some young people. And we do want to bring young audience. This is a huge thing and it's incredibly important. Many opera houses actually do tickets for under 35-year-olds that are much more affordable because people think that opera is a high class only art, and it really isn't. And now that I'm at the Royal Opera at the moment, I have a dress rehearsal, and I was told that I can get a couple of tickets for it for younger audience. And I had sushi in a restaurant and I met a girl from Taiwan. She was here on some sort of exchange, and she was very curious what I do here. And I told her I'm an opera singer, and she was so fascinated to learn more. And I'm like, you come to the opera, come to the opera on that date. I'll give you a ticket. And I'm so excited to be able to do this. This is happening now. When I was in Zurich, I had a physical therapist. She was also quite young, gave her the ticket, two tickets with her friend. She was on another cloud after that. She was so excited and so thankful and said if I wouldn't have convinced her or have not offered to her to come to see the performance, she would have never thought to do it because it's unfortunately kind of looked in a different way. Less and less, I think, because social media is definitely helpful that we're showing people really the background and we're also young and we're also full of energy and we also love to do all the things that everyone else likes to do. It's not like we're stuck behind the books and do music all the time. We also do hiking, we also go swimming and we do everything else like everyone.
Well, you've certainly given them an extra thing that they had no idea that maybe they were interested in. And that's really important. And coming back to your point on social media, obviously you said previously that the reason why you do this is to touch people's heart. It is clearly a high profile job that you do. Everyone wants to know who you are. And how important is social media and personal branding for you regarding your work as an opera singer?
It's becoming more and more important, actually. There's even some recording labels in the contract of which you have down as you must have social media, you must have Instagram, you must have Facebook, you must have even TikTok, and you must post once a month or whatever about our project. So there, it's becoming now a requirement, actually. And what I have noticed is that popularity on social media brings people over to the opera house. And because the directors, they want to fill in the hole, they are more inclined to invite someone with a more popular name. And in order to get a more popular name, very often you have to be quite popular in the social circles and social media, and that kind of branding is quite important. But I can see how it can be also quite curious for people. From the audience point of view, you go to the opera and you see the ready thing. Everything that we've been doing for 5, 6 weeks rehearsals, they just see the final product. But what we do behind the scenes is so incredibly interesting and curious. And why should it be a secret? For example, now I have a scene where I'm jumping off from a window. I've done jumping in the pit because this is just the scene. Cherubino, my character, runs away because he's freaking out. So he jumps into a garden. And people don't see where I jump, what's happening. And I actually have a duvet, a big one, that I jump into. So it's a fun little thing. Or if there's like a big death on stage and the singer just goes backwards or forward, and what happens then? They don't know exactly. They can assume what's happening, but this is just a little example of a duvet. There's all these other things. What's actually behind the stage? There's so many people working constantly to change the set, to make sure that we have all the props that we need, because at that scene I may need like a lipstick, or I need a paper, or I need anything, and they have to be there to give it to me. So when I go on stage, I'm not, oh, okay, I'm talking about a paper, but hey, imagine the paper. So there's so many little things. There's stage managers who call us from our dressing rooms when it's the time to go on stage, because it doesn't matter how big the role is, you would usually have a couple of minutes to go back to your dressing room to either change, because there's so many costume changes. I have a person that deals with my wig or whatever, the hair and the makeup, somebody that dresses me, because it's just a part of the whole machine. It's so curious and exciting. And this, I think, is wonderful that we have social media to show that to people, because when they see that, maybe they think, actually, I love doing makeup. I love doing wigs. Why don't I go into opera, and maybe that's going to be my career path, for example.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And talking about the fact that there is so much secrecy, not deliberate, but just because obviously, as you say, people go to the opera, they see the final performance. What do you think people don't know or don't understand about the life of an opera singer?
Well, some people ask, but is this really your job? Because they assume I'm just born with this voice. Yes, I am, but it actually requires so much training. It requires so much discipline. I know I have to, before a performance or before rehearsals, I must have eaten certain things, and I must have eaten well. Some people don't eat at all before performance. I find that for me, for example, pasta is a great pre-show meal at any time during the day. I'm not one that I have to have breakfast at 9 o'clock. I have to have lunch at 1 o'clock, and I have to have dinner at 7 o'clock. This is impossible, absolutely impossible, because sometimes I start rehearsals at 10 o'clock, so I have to leave at 9 o'clock. Breakfast is easy. Lunchtime, you don't always get that lunch break, or you get it much later. You can get it at 2:30, so you have to eat at 2:30. Dinner, virtually impossible. During rehearsal periods, maybe, depends on the opera house, because we have some houses, they have rehearsal from 9 to 1 and then from 5 till 8 or 6 to 9 or something like that. So essentially, this is the dinner time. We cannot have it there. The opera starts at, say, 7 o'clock, but we're there at least 2 hours earlier so we can get prepared for it. We have to get our wigs and makeup and clothes, get the voice working. But the voice, you don't just start making it work at the beginning before the performance. You wake up and you straight away make a little sound. Is the voice there? Okay. Then you start drinking a lot of liquids, water, tea, and just making sure that you're well hydrated. And it's because the vocal cords that need this lubrication in order for them to function in the proper way. And there's a lot of little things like that. And it's quite difficult also in the sense of, like right now, I'm not at home. And next opera, I'm not going to be at home either, but I try to make these places also my home. I have certain things that I always bring with me, like my yoga mat, my little mocha pot, and a knife, because surprisingly, a lot of Airbnbs or places that you rent even from friends or whatever, they don't necessarily have the best knife. So or they're missing something. So you learn what you need to bring with you in order to make yourself feel more home. Like I know I like to get a candle, for example, because it just, when I'm doing my yoga or in the evening, I like to just be able to relax and do that. So it's a life that you really need to want and a career that you really need to love so that you would do it. And you need to know what your priorities are very, very well. At what stage of your life, what is your main priority? Is it by any means whatsoever to be on top of the game, to just sing only the best roles, only in the best houses? Or is it to have a family and to be able to make career on the side, but not necessarily singing constantly?
So would that be the best advice that you give someone who is looking to follow in your footsteps?
Yep. You have to really want it and you have to be really sure and you have to be tough. You have to be a tough cookie. That's it. No one's going to care if you didn't sleep well last night. No one's going to care that it was 35 degrees and you just lay in bed like that, or that there was a party with the neighbors. No. If you don't go and you don't perform properly, then they're going to just find somebody that will. And that's as simple as that. Unfortunately, we're no longer the golden ages of opera. There were always a lot of opera singers, of course, but I think the respect was a little different before. And you need to constantly prove yourself. And if you're not willing to do that, if you just want to be a diva, it just doesn't work. You have to be also a good person and you have to know what you can do and where you belong and be kind, because diva behavior is no longer tolerated. Maybe before it was. Now, no longer. Now you are a full package. Now you have to be fit. So, for example, what I had to do once, sing my aria, go run around the stage, backstage, which was not a short run, come back in immediately and sing beautifully again without being out of breath or anything. This, some 30 years ago, would have never been asked from you. You would have been in the center of the stage. In fact, I heard stories that some of the big opera stars, they put the dress on the stage essentially. She just walks in, sings with the dress kind of put in front of her, done, leaves. She does not need to do anything else. And now we have to do crazy things. Be on top of hands, roll from them while singing beautifully, run, be fit, do this, spin around, have swords, you do all sorts of stuff. So they're looking for a package. Can't just be an incredible singer. You have to be also a fantastic actor and you have to be fit for certain specific roles.
And you've also mentioned your yoga mat and you've mentioned your mocha cup and all the rest of it. So before you go onto the stage, are there any specific things that you do to warm up just before the curtains open?
I'm quite calm nowadays before the curtain comes. Actually, when I'm a little more nervous, I become a little chatty. Otherwise, I wouldn't say there's anything specific right before the stage. I tend to have a little mint or a little candy before that just to make sure that the vocal cords are well lubricated, especially because the stage can sometimes be quite dry. I always have my water bottle with me, no matter what. It's wonderful. Here we have the girl that's my dressing lady. She goes around with me everywhere. See, this is also quite an interesting thing for people to know. It's quite touching, in fact, that you have somebody that looks after you throughout the whole time. She has my bottle. She has anything. She has my fan. She has anything that I want. By the way, talking about fan, fun thing, 35 degrees, we cannot do air conditioning. Singers and air conditioning, this does not work. So a fantastic friend and colleague of mine gave me this as a present. And I'm so grateful because this has been my saving grace. So this girl goes around me in the opera house with my water bottle, with my fan, with if I need hand sanitizer. Why I say hand sanitizer, because the role I'm doing at the moment, I'm on the floor a lot. I crawl, I do whatnot, and it's dirty, and then you touch your face and you're like, not fantastic maybe. So there's little things, or she just makes sure that at any point I have the right stuff on me. It's a nice feeling, I must say. That kind of care.
It sounds like you have a lot of wonderful memories, but there must be the art of the ridiculous as well. So, what is the most ridiculous thing that's happened to you when you've been on stage?
Oh, that so it's a my diva moment, I call it. And I laugh at it now. It wasn't on stage, it was at a rehearsal, thankfully. So I was doing specific role that before the very final aria, which is incredibly difficult, there is a very quick change. And I mean 30 seconds or so change. And I have to become looking perfect and sing one of the most difficult arias there are for my voice. And that has to happen, therefore, right next to the stage, the change. So I have usually at least three ladies that take my clothes off, put my hair however it has to be, put the new clothes whilst I'm just usually standing like this, getting everything done to me, or maybe just drinking a little bit of water, preparing for this, because you also have to be mentally, not freak out about the skirt didn't go on or the shoe didn't go on properly or whatever. So what happened then was right at the beginning of the rehearsals, I said, there's going to be a space for me, specific, private, because I will be completely naked when this change happens. So I just want to make sure that there's a box for me to change in. Yes, yes, don't worry, don't worry, don't worry. We come to pre-general rehearsal. We get to the backstage to change. There is no space. They put me in a little corner. They say, don't worry, there is no one that's going to go by here. They start changing me, and the whole male chorus starts walking by because they're going backstage. And why I call it my diva moment, I said, relax, put something on me. I absolutely did not make my entrance because I was furious. Relaxed. Now I say relaxed, but I was absolutely furious. And I went on stage and I said, this is absolutely unacceptable. I'm not getting paid enough money to be naked behind stage and for all the male chorus to see me. I specifically, it was just, I call it really my diva moment. And they really apologized. They said, well, don't worry, most of the male chorus, they're gay. And I'm like, I don't care. I, I mean, this is not something that it's it's just a matter of preparation for something that I specifically asked so much for. But you live and learn. Now I always ask before that specific role to see before the opera where I'm going to be changing, what's going to happen. And with these little things you learn really to just make sure that everything is in the order it has to be. And you don't look for your little paper right before you have to go on stage or whatever prop is missing. It's just, and keep always calm because it has happened to me also. In fact, 2 weeks ago, when I was doing Cenerentola, Cinderella, and Sofia, it happened so that, and it was in a way my fault because I was trying to help the lady that was dressing me to put the dress faster. She had prepared it perfectly how to put it on, and I decided to take the dress and put it on myself. And the bottom part, the tutu or whatever, fell. And she freaked out. She was like, we're not going to make it. This is a performance. And I'm like, relax. Everything's going to be fine. We will make it. And eventually we did. So that's it. Keep your cool is incredibly important. I wouldn't say there's any other specifically crazy things that have happened. You always kind of have to adjust. This is another advice I would say. Just be flexible, be able to adjust because someone can hurt themselves while you're on stage. Not too much, nothing crazy, but you need to just keep going. Unless it's a huge problem and the whole opera needs to stop. I haven't had so far this kind of issues. I've been lucky and I've had great colleagues and we all play off each other. If somebody forgets a line or whatever, we just keep going and we just make it so that the audience wouldn't notice because if you react, then everyone's going to know. And if you just keep going, then it's fine.
Absolutely. And final question. What are 3 things about you, Svetlina, that people would be surprised to know?
I think people would be surprised to know that I love astronomy and I would have loved to be an astrophysicist. This is a huge passion of mine. In fact, now my dream is to go and sing in space. So please, if there's somebody, I am your gal. I would go tomorrow, fly, sing. I realize acoustically that's not going to be a place for the best acoustic space at all, but it's the whole idea that I can create live music in space, that I can make that. It's just fascinating to me. So I'm trying to bring my passion and my work passion together as one. And I'm quite a chill person. I don't freak out easily because some singers, they need huge preparation before a performance. I'm quite relaxed about that. Although maybe people would know that I'm relaxed because I kind of maybe give out that vibe. Crazy thing about me is people would not believe that I listen to rock and metal. I think it's the curls. Must be the curls. I look too sweet or something, and I love that kind of music.
Well, thank you, Svetlina. It has been a true pleasure to have you here today, hear about your journey, and to learn more about the intricacies behind the scenes regarding opera. It's not just a performance on the day. You have to be truly committed, and it is just obviously very much a passion of yours. So thank you to the viewers who've hopefully enjoyed the show as much as we've enjoyed making it. If you have any questions regarding the podcast, please feel free to comment. If you think it's worth coming back, please do subscribe to the channel. And on that note, I'll see you next time. Have a good week, one and all. Thank you, Svetlina.
Huge pleasure, Fiona. It was huge. Thank you so much for inviting me.